The day my paycheck stopped, the world didn't make a sound. No alarms, no dramatic phone calls, just an email at 9:42 a.m. Due to restructuring, your position has been eliminated. The cursor blinked at me like an accusation. For nearly a decade, I had built a life around consistency. Morning trains, late-night deliverables, coffee orders memorized by the barista, a calendar that was proof I mattered. I managed projects, handled budgets, and had a tidy spreadsheet that felt like armor. I wasn't famous, I wasn't rich, but I was secure, or so I thought. That single sentence unplugged my routine. Coworkers shifted their eyes. HR smiled the practiced smile. The badge that once opened doors now felt like a weight. I walked home feeling like the city had been repainted in a color that didn't fit me anymore. The billboard ads still flashed luxury and endless possibility, but my mind only counted the things that really mattered. Rent, my mother's medication, a car payment I couldn't miss. At home, I brewed coffee because the ritual grounded me, then sat in the quiet and listened to the hum of normal life, the neighbor's radio, the distant bus, while the fact of unemployment expanded like an ache. The first week, I applied for every position that looked like me: coordinator, manager, project lead. I tailored my resume, rehearsed answers, and still heard nothing that sounded like returned hope. Savings felt like a slow leak, the balance notched down in tiny, humiliating increments. I scheduled interviews and prayed. Both felt like ping-ponging attempts to hold a future together. Friends said the usual things: you'll land something better. But better began to sound like a foreign language. What if better meant different? What if God's reroute was not to a new office, but into work that steadied a heart? One gray Saturday, my phone buzzed with a message that looked insignificant at first. A volunteer call from a nurse at a community shelter. We're shorthanded on weekends. Any chance you can help organize donations? There was no salary, only need. I nearly scrolled past. Instead, I typed, "I can come," and surprised myself. That first day at the shelter was messy and sacred. The place smelled of broth and laundry soap. The volunteers moved like people who had chosen to stay even when systems failed them. Children laughed with mouths missing teeth. An old man told a story about a bicycle and then handed me a peeled orange with the tenderness of blessing. I swept floors, arranged cans, learned names that had no LinkedIn profiles. For the first time since the email, I felt my chest unclench. Going back became the rhythm of my new life. I stopped policing my identity on social platforms. Instead, I learned how to listen without editing. My hands, used to keyboards and deadlines, learned to fold blankets and portion stew. There was dignity in the mundane labor of serving others. In the evenings, after shifts, I'd sit on public steps and feel the city breathe. The air tasted of soot and possibility. My prayers shifted. They were no longer petitions to secure my job, but pleas for guidance and courage. One afternoon while sorting donations, a woman in line caught my eye. She said, with blunt gratitude, "You smile for real when you're here." I blinked. I hadn't noticed. The realization that I could find joy while receiving no paycheck hit me like cool rain. My metric of success was earnings. Now it was presence. The Bible slid open on my shelf that week to a verse that I had once underlined. "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." Proverbs 16:3. I read it slowly, feeling the words settle like seeds. My plan had been my job. God's plan was larger and stranger, tighter on my heart than on my calendar. I began to invite God into each small choice: how to spend the savings that remained, which bills to prioritize, who to call, and who to forgive. Practical wisdom followed. I took small paid gigs that respected my new priorities. I sold a rarely used appliance, tightened subscriptions, and renegotiated my phone plan. I learned to ask for help without shame. A neighbor returned a favor. An old colleague sent a short freelance lead. The same community that had clapped at my office achievements now rallied in quieter ways. A grocery card, a referral, a casserole left at my door. Proverbs had said to be prudent, but prudence looked a lot like asking for what I needed and stewarding what I had. 2 months in, the shelter asked me to coordinate a small drive to keep a winter pantry stocked. I launched a modest online fundraiser, not for myself, but for the pantry. I expected a dozen donations. Instead, strangers and former coworkers gave, and gifts arrived from people I'd only met in passing. The funds exceeded what I had imagined, and I watched generosity multiply in real time. It felt like a spiritual economy where scarcity was met with mercy. My phone began to buzz with messages I didn't expect. People saying they had canceled a doctor's appointment in fear of expense until my open story about volunteering nudged them to go. A neighbor told me his son had re-enrolled in school because someone from the shelter helped with fees. My work, once measured by deliverables and billable hours, now measured itself by warm meals and reconciled families. There were hard nights. Worry woke me at 3 a.m. I calculated and recalculated budgets. Pride flared when an old friend asked me why I had chosen volunteering over finding something more fitting. But humility kept coming back. I called my parents more. I forgave business partners I had resented. I took time to apologize where I'd been harsh. Relationships deepened in the thinning of my bank account. The heart widened as the balance narrowed. Eventually, a modest part-time position opened at the shelter, a coordinator role that paid less than my previous salary, but more than I had now. It offered stability and the chance to build programs that mattered. I accepted. My paycheck returned in a new shape. Smaller numbers, larger meaning. The work filled me in ways promotions never had. I still steward, still plan, and still aim to be prudent. I rebuild savings with intention, but the difference now is the metric. Meals served, people sheltered, moments of grace. Proverbs taught me to plan, yes, but it also taught me the posture of the heart that plans. Humility, generosity, and trust. The old spreadsheet is no longer the measure of my worth. If your paycheck has stopped, you are not finished. Maybe the pause is a pruning. Maybe God is planting purpose in the soil where you feared only loss. Radical surrender doesn't mean passivity. It means allowing God to rearrange your life around what truly lasts. If this story found you between paychecks, breathe. Subscribe and stay with us. Every day we share stories of faith and practical wisdom from Proverbs. And if you're trusting God even when income stops, leave a blue heart in the comments, a quiet signal that your purpose is growing as your paycheck waits. You just spent 8 minutes for God, 8 minutes to grow in wisdom, faith, and peace. See you tomorrow. Verse for your meditation. Proverbs 16:3. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans.